My experience of developing a secure remote patient monitoring system, and it's a part of PhD work of my student Shayantani, who could not be present today, so I'm presenting the paper on both of our behalf. And it's part of a large project, so maybe we are representing a percentage work on that project. So maybe there many questions will be there which I mean we are not looking into it, we are looking only into the security aspect of it. So I will briefly go over this, firstly introduction, then the security issues of the application, and we have a proposed protocol sheet and some discussions over that, because till now it's on the discussions stage. We have not yet properly implemented because the project has just started. So the objective of this work was that we would have liked to develop a security protocol sheet that would take care of the mobile cloud computing system, but for a very specific application area. And that application is basically the remote patient monitoring. But while doing this, we find that it had several aspects. So the first was that the protocol now considers remote user authentication, which actually is not a part of our work, but still we have considered the part that would be required for us. And subsequently it develops secure access to data, and that data we are thinking of retaining in the cloud infrastructure. So why mobile cloud computing? Because cloud computing, as we all know, today offers and allows users to use IaaS, PaaS and SaaS. And with the advent of mobile computing, I mean it's such a pervasive and ubiquitous computing nowadays that you couldn't avoid. So with the merger of mobile computing services and cloud computing services, we like to have mobile cloud computing services that could be available to, I mean here specifically for our application, may be available for many other application areas, but here it is required for this patient monitoring. So our application, as I have already mentioned, it is remote patient monitoring system. It focuses on maintaining and monitoring medical data for a remote patient. And we assume also that the health worker, that means may not be a doctor, will monitor a patient in the remote location from time to time and upload the relevant data to the cloud via some cloud-based service. And for this purpose, let us see the other side of the application too. The medical practitioner who would be sitting in his or her chamber or traveling from one chamber to the other or from one hospital to the other, as you all know, they may have a look into the data of his or her patient who is residing remotely in some village and may be able to prescribe back. And so we must also have some cloud-based service from the doctor's end too. A patient can also have a look into his or her medical records because he also has the rights. So they are also users of this total system. So specifically we see that there are various users in this system and each of them has different roles. And maybe not all data should be seen by everybody in the system. That is one of the important things here for this application. So the security issues that came forward were that we have to authenticate the users for using network resources, we have to secure the network resources, and we also have to secure access to the resources. And generally we will like to maintain the privacy of the user, but privacy of the user is not a part of this work, at least till now, so we are not concerned about that. Now I would like to mention that we are actually thinking of having a cloud service provider to whom both the health workers from the say the remote sites and the doctors from another type of remote sites could maybe log into, and they can exchange data. Exchange in the sense that whatever data each of them is able to access is using his role will only be able to get it. So that is what we meant. So there are different phases in this protocol, and obviously maybe phase 1 and phase 2 will be used only once, or say after some few sessions or something like that. It may not be repeated always, because it's nothing but handshaking between the cloud service providers and the storage providers. So there we have assumed we will have symmetric key encryption for the time being, because we find that this is the appropriate one. And another phase is the user registration. That means whatever way the remote user authentication credentials are developed, they would be secured. I mean, they would be saved securely in some, again, a safe storage, we can say. So here goes the detailing. So when a user registration is done, the user information will be generated and encrypted using one type of symmetric key, which we have named the storage symmetric key. And both the user information and the the encrypted user information will go via the maybe some cloud or some network via the storage provider. Why? Because in the storage provider it will check the integrity of the user information. And similarly, when the user needs to be authenticated, that means suppose some remote user has logged in now, so the information retrieval regarding the authentication record of the user will be done via a retrieval key, and that will be done by the storage provider where the information is already kept, and it will come back to the cloud service provider. If everything matches, then only the user will be granted access. So now the second phase of the protocol. This is the most important part of the protocol. Here, this protocol is concerned about, firstly, the storage of the remote patient data, and secondly, accessing the same by an authorized user. Data will be stored presumably by the health workers and accessed for monitoring purposes by the doctors. Now here the important part is that the patient data may have many different fields, and hence we have already developed some interface sort of thing where the health workers visit patients at their homes, or they come into the health kiosks, and we take their demographic information, some history information, and the symptoms that they are reporting now. So all of these will form the total patient information. But at the same time, not always a doctor may have to look into the total information. The doctor may know the history information of a particular patient because he is already attached to that patient as a doctor. So he might only need to know the current symptoms, and maybe a health worker need not know some other information, only he will get the information and try to save it via some, some cloud-based interface.